Welcome to Kansas Street Farm. Let's take a look. So yeah, it's a multi-unit rental property. So there's 4 units on the property. We're just occupying this one little cottage at the back here. We've been here 3 years now, and when we moved in, you know, this space already had a little raised veggie bed in the front that I would sort of start just growing tomatoes and zucchini in the summer. And so from there, we're like, hey, let's see what we can do to be a little bit more self-reliant in the city. When it comes to fruit trees, like we love these dwarf varieties for small spaces. They're fabulous, they're super productive when they reach maturity, and they just take up less space, so you don't have to have a lot of whole orchard. We're doing a lot of companion planting, just growing like a Three Sisters method, which is corn with beans that grow up the corn stalk, and then you interplant the corn with squash. And so companion planting is great for pest control, and it also keeps weeds down, conserves water. And so then in addition just to veggies, we really like to interplant with pollinator-friendly flowers and plants. We've got a hive of honeybees, and so we really want to encourage their health by just planting things that they can thrive from. And so as renters, we're just here putting money in, you know, it's our personal investment. So we're really conscious of, you know, some ways we can utilize the space without having to make a really big financial investment. And so we basically used whatever was already here. So bricks and like these little angle iron pieces, just sort of whatever was here, we're going to use that first in the best way we can, rather than trying to make it look perfect and pretty and spending a lot of money. And there's Aurora, top chicken. 2 years ago, we decided to get the chickens. We basically created some flexible fencing around this whole area before we planted it out. This whole fencing system is made out of bamboo. That's just a natural timber source that we have in the front yard here, and some construction mesh and a little bird netting. The fencing, it's bird netting and a little bit of this. It's probably like $50. This that we all found, the rebar we found. We do a lot of free cycle and Craigslist and looking around the streets for what we can find. So yeah, it's a great flexible fencing system. It's really easy to use. And when we move on, it's not going to be hard to take down, and it wasn't a huge investment to make. So grow a vine on it and it kind of camouflages it nicely. This happens to be a productive passion fruit vine. It almost continuously fruits. We were motivated to basically turn the home into this sort of engine of production and not just an engine of consumption, which most American homes have become in the last 50 years or so. This whole area, before we planted it out, we let the chickens for basically a year prepare by scratching and pecking and fertilizing this whole space. There was crabgrass just taken off, and so they really had the opportunity to prepare this. And then we did the double digging technique, which is a permaculture technique that really preserves the topsoil. When we first got the chickens, we essentially let them just like have free, full range of this whole backyard and front yard space. And pretty soon they were bold enough to wander down the driveway, across the street, someone else's front yard, and take a little dust bath.
What do your neighbors think?
We don't have a rooster. Roosters are illegal in Oakland, so you can have a flock, I think, of up to 12 or 13 hens. And they can be, I mean, right now it's pretty quiet, but certainly it can get loud when they're laying. There's lots of like birth announcements, as I call them. We have what other urban farmers refer to as like extensive chicken area. It's probably about like 600 square feet. So the chickens come down the side. We really wanted to give them as much free range area as we could. Come on, girls. Come on, Aurora.
Is it difficult to have chickens?
You're
not home. Well, I mean, you're in school.
Yeah, I mean, you're coming and going. I just graduated recently.
So you did this as a student. You're like a college farmer, in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like I grew up in a family that taught a lot about food value and eating healthy food made at home. And since being on my own, just you know, seeing this available space and wanting to use it. And more than anything, it's an experiment. So the great thing too about getting chickens when they're really young and having them and handling them when they're really young is that, you know, they get to know you. They're super docile, they like being held, they're friendly. And for the chicken keeper, it really aids you in monitoring their health to be able to, you know, pick them up and check their feet, make sure they don't have any wounds. Yeah, handling them from a young age is really good because they don't mind being held. Okay, I'll put you down. Come here, Fauna. Fauna, Fauna, Fauna. Come here. I've always loved animals, so getting chickens and that kind of thing just was like, why not?
You attached?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is my first flock of chickens, so we get asked a lot, like, oh, what are you gonna do when they stop laying? And I think when their production starts to slow, I'm gonna take them up to the country where my parents have some property and we can get a rooster and actually breed them and produce some more chicks. I can see the idea of one day keeping a flock that after they're done egg laying that they become meat birds. But with this flock, I'm a little bit hesitant because they're, you know, they are productive pets. And right now I'm like, I don't know, they might have, these girls might have to just retire and live out their lives. So we'll see. In terms of like time input, it's not a lot. We're doing it kind of like the low maintenance way. These automatic chicken coop door openers do exist. We don't have one. I would love one, but I've yet to justify spending $200 on it. So, I mean, our wake up schedule definitely, you know, the chickens want to get out of their coop and we want to secure them at night because there are lots of urban predators like skunks and raccoons. So we lock them up. You know, our neighbors are really great. We have family nearby, so if we are working late or can't get home, we do have people we can call and say, hey, do you mind closing those doors behind the chickens? And then, you know, as the days get longer, they get up earlier. So right now, we're pretty much waking up at like 5:30 to let them out. And then, you know, going like stumbling out there and then going back and hitting the pillow for, you know, an hour or two more. But it's quick. And like I said, there are automatic chicken coop door openers. And so if that just doesn't seem feasible for some folks, there are options out there. This part of our yard, this bamboo naturally creeps over from our neighbors. So we kind of control it, but it's a great timber source. We actually harvest all this bamboo and use it for all of our curtain rods inside, as well as fencing and trellising in the garden.
So this is the hive is new, you said?
The hive we just got this spring. Yeah, a friend of ours split her colony that was really healthy Italian honeybees, and we decided to take some on. And beekeeping certainly comes with a learning curve, but it's a really fun and interesting one. You know, when I first got bees, like I sort of had like a natural anxiety to bees, but working with them, like they're calm, they get to know you. I think they sense you by smell and they know that you're not gonna harm them. And so yeah, I've been really enjoying having the bees, and our urban bees are doing really well compared to a lot of our rural bees these days. And so I'm happy to give them a safe haven and plenty of things to pollinate. It's been interesting. We just got the bees this spring. And so to see the difference in yield of our veggies because they're working so hard around here has been really incredible. We've definitely noticed an increase in production. So we'll go through here. Here's our little F for farm. So this is our little backyard growing space. This whole side I utilize really for growing like medicinal herbs. So we have calendula and lemon balm, lemon verbena, some chamomile. Basically, depending on what the sun exposure is, these areas are partially shaded during the day, so we'll utilize them for really just growing greens and things that don't need that full sun exposure. So we have like a little potting area where I'll do a lot of plant starts. And then we're also doing a lot of companion planting back here. Some pollinator-friendly flowers thrown in the mix. I mean, in the Bay Area, we can pretty much grow food year-round. I love not having to go to the farmer's market to get those things that are such staples of our diet. So, I mean, literally these kale plants, we have them year-round, and I'll just add and fill in empty spaces as we harvest, save seed for things like this Japanese spinach that's flowering. We'll save the seed. Same thing with this mustard green and replant it again and again. We just try to grow a lot of what we like to eat. Once the really summer high yield harvest comes in, we'll probably be eating like 60 to 70% of our vegetables from our garden. And then, so this raised bed and the chicken coop, my partner built out of just reclaimed material. There was an old fence. You can kind of see a partial part of it over here. They replaced a fence down the driveway, and we basically just used that wood. The only thing we had to buy was the hard wire mesh and the corrugated metal for the roof. Everything else is just reused and repurposed into a chicken coop with a run. We do a great deep litter method, which is a super low maintenance way of keeping chickens and not feeling like you have to clean out their coop constantly. That just consists of putting a nice thick layer of straw on the bottom, and so their droppings essentially collect on that straw, and it just composts in place and breaks down. Biannually, we take that straw, put it in our compost, or actually sometimes directly in our vegetable beds and straw mulch with it, which is a great sort of nitrogen and carbon input for veggies. The straw mulching technique just really keeps the weeds down.
Is this an investment? The birds?
No, a chick is like $3.99.
Really?
Yeah. Little chicks are, you buy them a day or two old. They're about $3.99 depending on the breed. We like to get them sexed, so there's about a 95% chance that they're hens versus roosters.
So the investment really is in the time?
Yeah, I would say the time, and like I mentioned, we really like to handle our birds, so making a point of sort of when they're young, twice a day, once in the morning before you leave for work or school, and then coming back in the evening and just picking them up and holding them so they know you and they feel comfortable being handled. This opens up. This is sort of where we come in, close these doors at night so they're protected. We got someone on the nest. Sorry to disturb you, Mary Feather. You got a couple eggs under there, huh? Put little burlap curtains for privacy. So similarly, laying this bedding down keeps it really sanitary. You want to make sure your chickens have nice padding where they lay. Let's close that up. So we give the chickens a lot of kitchen scraps or greens from the garden. I'll just pick off a few handfuls and they love it. And so whatever then they don't eat, we'll just toss directly into our compost right here. And this breaks down and we use it in the garden. And then there's also the balance of wanting to create an aesthetically pleasing space, but also having chickens. So finding some ornamental plants that they won't destroy has been a balance, but I've found like euphorbias and these salvias do really well in the chicken run, and they love to kind of hang out amongst them. With chickens comes droppings. And particularly in the spring and summer, as it's heating up and things are naturally hatching, you'll notice often an influx in flies. And I don't want to hang out around flies. I want to be in my backyard. So I've got this really cool fly trapment system. And it's basically a 5-gallon bucket that you bait with a little water and yeast. And then for like $50, I swear the best $50 I've spent, you get this whole metal mechanism that basically sits on top of that 5-gallon bucket. The flies come in here through the holes. They fly up. They get caught in there. When I'm feeling like it's full, I'll take a bag and cover it for a couple days, and then they've all died. And you can just take this collar clamp off and dump it on the ground, and the chickens all come over and have a total fly frenzy. And it takes them 15 minutes to just devour like 300 flies. And it's a great protein source for the chickens that I didn't have to pay for. We just captured. And so we got this rain barrel. It's unfortunately empty now with our California drought, but it was full, and the city of Oakland had a rain barrel subsidy program. For the city, it's an incentive for water runoff to be collected and stored during a big storm rather than inundate our system and overrun it. So yeah, simple as a renter, just to hook that up to the downspout. It's something that when we move on, we can totally load up and take with us. So the chickens come down here and they like to hang out in the shade on a hot day.
What does your landlord think about all this?
I think our landlord is pretty amazed what we've done with this space. They're pretty flexible with what we want to do with it. And I think for them, they see this as like, hey, we just totally increased their property value by landscaping and planting and yeah. So yeah, they're totally encouraging. As a renter, obviously there's some things I would love to do that we just can't, like a gray water system, for instance, or solar. Let's do it. So here's a little garlic harvest we just got. Won't be buying garlic for a while. We keep a little chicken scratch here. So if the birds are loud in the morning, this is an easy way of just like going in. Yeah, so we'll go inside. This is just our back door. So this is just a little house, a little cottage. And then we do like simple living hacks, like in the bathroom, having a little bucket nearby, and you know, but when you turn on the shower, placing it just like right under there while you're waiting for your water to warm up and collecting that cold water. And then it's just really easy to flush your toilet with it. And that simple act absolutely saves gallons and gallons of water. So yeah, I mean, this is a small space for us. So just being, you know, mindful of organization. We love finding furniture that's free. Like Free Cycle, I found this leather sofa bed. My partner's really handy, like, so he built a lot of our furniture in here. This is a little chaise lounge made out of recycled pallets that he built. So just little recycled pallets and plywood. Yeah, and we had the cushions, so that was easy to use. And this is just a beam that he put casters on to make a little. Stuff like this we'll just find on the sidewalk. It was like an old TV cabinet that was like twice as wide, and just slice off the back, add some shelves in it and turn it into like a little bar cabinet. Works great. But yeah, just kind of repurposing stuff that's, I mean, it's amazing what you can find on the sidewalk or on, you know, Free Cycle or Craigslist. Hi, Clee. So yeah, we like to experiment with like some fermenting. I had just an abundance of plums, and it was like, what am I gonna do with all these plums? So I experimented with infusing some gin, call it my gypsy gin. So it's just our, you know, Santa Rosa plums, a little cup of sugar, and some gin. These are some kefir grains, so similar to kombucha, it's a natural culture that you can ferment and add juice to, and it's a great probiotic drink. I've got like a red wine vinegar mother, so if we don't finish a bottle of red wine here and there, I'll just add it to that and pour it into a bottle when it's ready. And
what do you mean you have
a mother? So that's like the culture that's in here. It's basically like a symbiotic, we call it a SCOBY. So that's what ferments the beverage or whatever, vinegar liquid, into like a healthy, preserved.
So you aren't throwing a lot away.
Not throwing a lot away. No, we're saving those empty bits of red wine that we didn't finish and turn it into vinegar. This is some squash harvest. I mean, we have an abundance of squash, more than we'll probably consume. So, I mean, with these activities, there's like a lot of sharing involved. Sharing with friends, with neighbors, coworkers, family. We do a lot of like informal trade and barter. For us, this is a really, you know, useful way of using our space, and for us, we enjoy it, and you know, more than anything, we enjoy it. And just reimagining the way you can live in a city. You know, an urban environment where everything kind of comes in from the outside. It doesn't have to be that way. Yeah, it's just a way to like reconnect with nature and animals and understand where your food comes from. As a renter, circumstances are different. Some people's housing isn't as secure. You may be there for a while, but I think there's options. We obviously moved in here with the intention that we were going to be here for a few years at least. But I think for some, you know, they sign a year lease and they don't know. But certainly, you know, taking advantage of like pots and containers for growing, I think is a great way of like, you know, to experiment with these activities and become familiar, but still have the mobility to move on when you need to.